Hello, Saket, Kunal, and Zoya. Welcome to the Quint. Ankahi Kahaniya looks amazing so far from what I have heard and seen. And it looks like a very interesting set of stories. So I have to ask that every anthology has a principal theme abiding the stories and tying them together. So what would that be for Ankahi Kahaniya?
When Ashi Dua, the producer, first came to all three of us, all the three filmmakers, it was a very broad idea that, that we want to do love stories. We'd like you to make love stories. And we had no idea what the other filmmaker was making. And we've shot them at different times because of the pandemic, etc. It was spread out. But but as we've made the films and we've seen them, I think the theme that comes across is that a love story a lot of times is what really happens after a boy meets girl. And that's what I think all these three stories sort of reflect, that when the initial brush of attraction and meeting happens, when reality sort of strikes you, then what is the definition of love then? So I think that's what I think the three stories thematically sort of carry with each other.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the origin of the idea for your film and like what the audience should be expecting from it.
So the idea is, Zinat Lakhani, who wrote the story with me, we started talking about what are sort of the expectations in a modern marriage. And when we fail those expectations and we discover that we've sort of been betrayed and cheated upon, how do we react? Everybody believes that they'll react in a certain way if this happens to them. But when it actually happens, people seem to react in extremely surprising ways. So that's the sort of the theme and the idea that we wanted to catch in the story, is about two people who discover their spouses are having an affair with each other, and they meet, and then what happens.
Okay, so Kunal and Zoya, could you tell us a little bit about your characters? Because they seem very fresh and they have this unusual and unlikely chemistry between them. So what drew you to these characters?
My character is a really simple, naive girl. She believes in romance. She believes in the power of love overcoming everything and all of those things. But like he said, that you don't know what you're going to do till you're in the situation. And sometimes the people that seem weak really get it together like nobody else. And sometimes the people that you think are really sorted, you don't know what's going on with them under the surface. And you also just discover these things about yourself when you're in that situation. I've never played a character like this that's just like simple and sweet and nice and lovely. So that was really cool for me.
Well, for me, what I found really interesting about this character was the fact that this was a character that at some point was poised for great things, but never really got there. And and very often in life we talk about, we have stories about the successful ones. We never have stories about the failures. And this is a character that has at some level sort of made peace with the fact that he didn't get where he should have gotten. But I think his wife has not made peace with that fact because, when she met him, when she got married to him, he was somebody that was completely different. He was an achiever, he was ambitious. Now he's not. Now he sort of made peace with the fact that, I may not get to the place that I wanted to get in life. And I think that is something that really creates a strain in the relationship. And that, I think, is something that is very true and real. And I don't think that's been explored enough, which is what happens when, you don't sort of meet up to the expectations of your partner. What sort of strain does that put on the relationship? So that, I think, is very interesting, and I feel like very new because it's not something that we've really explored so much of in our cinema.
The subject of infidelity and broken marriages somewhere has been represented several times in Bollywood in some way or the other. So were you actively trying to break away from that in doing this, or present it in a way that hasn't been explored so far? And how do you go about it, Saket?
So the way infidelity is usually been represented in Indian cinema is about forgiveness and reconciliation. But I think now we live in a time where actually the expectation is that if you've been cheated upon, you leave, especially for women. It's a and the thing is, you don't know what exactly is. It's very difficult to define the end in a relationship. So the idea that we wanted to explore is sometimes when relationships end, they do represent new beginnings. And sometimes when relationships feel like they're ending, there may be an opportunity to start afresh. So what we wanted to sort of explore is infidelity not in absolute terms, but in a very sort of a relative, subjective term for each relationship.
Relationships and marriages, it is presented a little more with a little more complexity than it has been done before. So how do you pack all of that complexity, especially considering the storyline of your film? How do you pack all of that complexity in like about 30 to 40 minutes?
What you do is actually you shoot first and it comes up to 44 minutes. And then the producer tells you, no, you have to pack this into 34 minutes. And then you go back and then you sort of keep looking at the story again and again and ask yourself, what is fundamental, what is crucial, what is important, you know? And I think the beauty of a short story and an anthology is that some of the biggest things that happen to us in life happen over a very short period of time. And to catch that, I think that's the challenge and that's the beauty of a short story. So we've tried to do that and hopefully we've been successful at it.
So the anthology format has been seeing has been seeing its peak even when it comes to simply the amount of them being produced, especially in the digital space. So what do you think of this whole flourishing anthology fever in the digital space? And did it give you, even as actors, Zoya and Kunal, did it give you a certain freedom, or was it more restricting to fit into one larger narrative?
No, I think it's incredible because it gives you a chance to explore stories which you wouldn't have a chance to explore otherwise. Some stories don't need 2 hours to tell. Some stories can be told in 44 or 34 minutes. And I think anthologies are great because it gives you a chance to explore those. So there's a lot of stories which would not make it to a screen or a television around you if it wasn't for anthologies. And which is why I think it's very, very satisfying and very exciting as actors and as filmmakers to be part of anthologies.
I think different mediums sort of give birth to different formats. So I think one of the great accomplishments of the digital format has been the sort of the revitalization of the anthology format. Of telling shorter stories. Not being restricted by what we would consider mainstream parameters. कि 2 घंटे की picture होनी चाहिए, interval होना चाहिए. Those are the things that you've been doing for a long time. But here, you can tell smaller stories, more intimate stories, and you can